Welcome back, guys, to another beer related video. Hope you're all well, hope you all had a good Christmas and looking forward to the new year. This is being recorded on the 30th of January. Hopefully I'm going to get it up today as well. I think Baz is coming down with a little bit of a lurgy, got a bit of a sore throat. So I've got a beer at the side of me. Well, an alcoholic beverage. Via Roma, basically, in the old Remola glass. Review will be coming up at some point, but if I'm getting a lurgy, it's probably not best to do one. So I'm going to have a quick slurp. You may well have seen from the title of the video that this is sort of video that I never normally do, and I just off the cuff thought, bugger it, I'm going to do one anyway. So this is a year in beer with no idea. So this is going to be my year of beer throughout 2024 really, and I've kind of got a few sections where I'm giving my views or beers that I think are good, beers I think are bad, or beers where I rate them or whatever. There's going to be little mentions of supermarket stuff, pub stuff, top 5 beers anyway, sort of just canned, bottles, whatever, and obviously the perfect draft kegs. So the only beer I've had on the blade this year was the Cruz Campo, which was shocking. There's nothing new out on the machine, which is rather annoying and a bit depressing. So I haven't really bothered with that, and obviously the sub that is sitting just here is now obsolete basically, isn't it? I think you can pick about 3 kegs up for it, 3 torps, which is a shame because I actually bought that to start reviewing them, and then found out about 2 weeks later that it's been discontinued. So I bought a machine that, quite frankly, I think I got robbed on anyway, for no fucking reason. I've only reviewed about 3 beers on it, but hey ho, that's what happens. So we can forget all that. Obviously, I've done some cans with the old physics machine. I've still got it. Do I use it? I haven't used it for a bit, because when I'm doing the reviews, certainly the Christmas ones, I wanted to, the advent calendar, I wanted to, they've all got to be on a level playing field, I think, when you pour them and all that. I know that you're not really putting them against each other, but I wanted to do them straight out the can. I've still got the little physics pourer, and I probably will start using it here and there for certain beers. So it may well end up in the odd review, I don't know. Excuse me for my throat. So I've got 5 sections here. As I've said, best in pub, best supermarket beer, 4 sections, sorry. My top 5 beers that I've had throughout the year, in my view, and they're not necessarily going to be supermarket ones, and my top 5 kegs. Now, there's been a lot of talk about certain beers and what have you. So where am I going to start? I will start with the best beer I've had in the pub. I'm also going to talk about some other great beers or breweries that are around, and I'm also going to have a mention about Stonehouse. Now, I know a lot of people think, oh, kissing Stonehouse's arse. I'm not actually, but I do want to mention them because I get so much beer from them and so much good stuff. That's why I want to give them a mention. So we'll start off with the best pint I've had in a pub this year. And for me, I mean, I've had beers in the Bailey Head in Oswestry and they've been good, don't get me wrong. I've had some really good beers, but the one that really sort of wowed me was when I was working in Carnarvon, and I think it's called the Black Boy Pub in Carnarvon on the North Wales coast, and it's a beer from Carew Llyn, and it's their Porthneagle IPA. Now, I searched for bars that had real ales and everything, and I went into there and they had quite a nice selection of beers, and they had that, so I said, oh, let me try one of them. And to be honest, it was a fantastic IPA on tap. Just very traditional, but just so much flavour and just a really downable beer, and I think that coming at 5%. So for me, that was the best beer I've had on tap in places. Now, I don't tend to go loads of different places and drink beers, and I'm not including Stonehouse beers in there because I do so much Stonehouse anyway. But just roaming around on pints I've had. So Carew Llyn and their Porthmeagle IPA, that's the best beer I've had in a pub, and the biggest sort of surprise really for me. So that comes in there. Now, if we go on to best supermarket beer, now I wouldn't say I don't recall having a massive amount of supermarket beers, if I'm honest. Probably most of them have been average, all right at best, with a couple of decent ones. But to be honest, I think the ones that I've really enjoyed have been ones that I've gone back and visited. So I did do the Buxton Axe Edge and the Kingslayer. I think the Axe Edge, actually, I hadn't reviewed that one. But the Kingslayer was a beer that I used to really like. I don't think that's as good as it was, but that could be down to me. But the best one I've had out of the supermarkets this year for me, again, is one that I revisited, and it's from Vocation, and it's their Love and Hate New England IPA. Now that is a keg I would love to see not tampered with and brought out onto the Perfect Draft. If Perfect Draft want to make a statement this year, because for me, I don't think it's been a great year for Perfect Draft, that would be a keg to release, in my opinion. 7.2%. Now, I reviewed it many moons ago when I first started this channel. And we're getting up to 5 years. In 3 months, I think it is, we'll be at 5 years doing this channel. Now, I reviewed that in my very early days, and the New England IPA was very much a new style of beer that I was sort of trying. I liked it and thought it was really good, but maybe didn't appreciate it as much. But also, I think my tastes have changed. I've really got into more sort of New England stuff, double IPA stuff. And when I had that out the can, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. So even after all this time and new releases coming and going, for me, Love and Hate is still, I would say, the best supermarket beer I've had this year. But like I say, I've not had too many. So we'll go on to... I'm going to go on to the Perfect Draft kegs now, the top 5 Perfect Draft kegs, because none of these beers I don't think would be in, well, there's no way they'd be in my top 5 beers of 2024, of what I've had. So we'll work up to the biggest sort of award, if you like. So, Perfect Draft. I know a few people have done these videos and I bet you think, oh, yeah, same old shit. But no, I just decided to have a look at what was released and what have you. Now, I've not taken a lot of notice. I've had to watch a couple of people to remind myself of what kegs were released. But I think the Perfect Draft, sort of release-wise, has really gone downhill, if I'm honest. They're looking at hitting mainstream. They're looking at bringing massive supermarket beers out, if you like, from the big boys, which obviously Perfect Draft are AB and Bev. And I kind of get that, but for me, that is not what I bought a Perfect Draft for, and I don't think it's what a lot of the older Perfect Draft users bought the Perfect Draft for. So I think this year has been the worst year for Perfect Draft. I think it has been on the decline for about 2 or 3 years, in my opinion. But we've still had some decent beers that have been released, and obviously everyone's personal taste is going to come into this. So I've tried to put them in order, but I could be slightly out. I think if I'm honest, I'm going to read them out in order, and I'm hoping that is going to be about the right thing. So I'm actually having a little bit of a change about as I read this. So top 5 kegs for me that I've had. Well, there's actually a beer that I managed to get hold of that was released last year that would be in my top 5 this year. I only reviewed it this year, and that'd be Hop, Skip and Juice. So that would be in my top 5 kegs of the year. Unfortunately, it was released last year, so I've got to say that can't really come in to can't come into the top 5 keg releases of 2024, but it would certainly be in my top 5 Perfect Draft kegs that I've drunk this year. So I'm going to go in tie 4th, which means we've got 2 there. So one, there's no 5th. There's 2 tie 4th. And for me, one of them is one that I haven't reviewed, but I've drunk a keg of it. And and I enjoyed it. And that's the Camden Easy IPA that come in at 5%. And I'm going to put that in tie fourth with Hakker-Beck. Now, I've not seen any Easy IPA reviews yet, as of yet, because I haven't reviewed mine. But I know a few people have reviewed the Hakker-Beck and didn't like it. Me personally, I thought it was quite a decent beer, and I enjoyed it. Easy drinking. People said, oh, it's not as good as Beck's or whatever. I actually thought it was a nicer beer myself. So for me, tie fourth place is the Camden Easy IPA and the Hakker-Beck. So like I say, I've still got that Easy to review, so that'll be coming up probably in the next week or two. So look out for that. Which means if we got tie fourth, we're going straight to 3. And for me, the third best keg release this year for me was Left Prestige. I actually thought it was a really decent beer. For me, it was trying to. For me, they were trying to sort of almost triple because we got rid of the 9% one. It was almost like they were trying to replace that, and it's 8.4, 8.5%. A very decent beer, typical sort of Left stuff. And I think it just stayed true to what Left is and the style of their beers, because obviously we've had all that debacle with the Left changing down to 6%. And I believe I was the first one to get one and actually put a video up and moan about it, because it's not the same. So for me, Left 1290, I think it is, Prestige 1290 was the third best keg of the year for me, released. Number 2 was actually one that was a bit of a surprise, and it didn't really wow me, but I just found it a really nice, enjoyable drop. And it's a brewery from France. Let me just have a slurp. And it's from Meteor. And this was their white IPA. Now, a white IPA is pretty much hybrid beer between a Weizen, wheat beer, and an IPA. And I actually thought it was really good. Again, a bit like Camden Easy, nothing to wow you, but very easy drinking and very easy going. And I managed to get through that keg really quick. But I actually thought there was more about the Meteor White IPA than Camden. So you're going to find out my views on that. But I actually thought, for what sort of beer it should have been, it actually done a much better job than maybe Easy did. But yeah, the Meteor White IPA I thought was a really enjoyable pint, easy going, and just went down well. Which now brings me to my keg of the year. Now, funny enough, as much as this keg is my keg of the year, or the best release of the year, it's not one that I will order lots of or order really regular. Now, I like an ale, and this is the Old Peculiar that's coming at number 1 for me. Now, I like an ale, but I don't necessarily want to drink it all the time. It's not something I would sit and session. It's one that I would have a couple of pints off, 2-3 pints off, and probably leave it and have something else a bit lighter. But for me, that is a banging beer. It's always been a banging beer in bottle, and it delivers on keg, in my opinion. And I think that's the best release of the year, which ironically enough, also probably it probably isn't going to be the biggest seller for them, which is a shame. So I'm glad it's still going. I'm glad they haven't got rid of it. But for me, a great beer, and I think anyone that likes any dark ales or real ales, that's a must-have on the keg. Absolute must-have on the keg. And I know people will say, oh, well, you know, you can buy it for this, you can buy it for that. You're always going to pay more for Perfect Draft. You're always going to pay more for that draft experience. If you want the proper experience, all right, you can't have cask, but if you want, as near damn it, the best experience of Old Peculiar, get it on your Perfect Draft. And obviously, Perfect Draft Pro as well is the best way to enjoy any of these beers. If you're just drinking lagers, the standard Perfect Draft is great because it's 3 degrees. But anything that you're going to get IPAs and tamper with the temperature, you need that Pro. And I said that many years ago. There needs to be a temperature gauge to get the best out of the beers. So there you go. There's my thoughts on the Perfect Draft one. It's not over yet. Now, before I get to my top 5 beers, I am going to actually, I'm going to go on about the brewery of the year for me. And there's always only going to be one, really, because I only get to try most other breweries. I maybe try 1 or 2 a year, but the brewery that is local to me is my brewery of the year. It might sound like I'm ass kissing, but it's Stonehouse Brewery. That said, I think there are a couple of issues that they do need to sort. So Stonehouse, since last year, have had a new brewer come in, and it's Kev, who used to be at Salopian Brewery, who also do some fantastic beers. We've seen a lot of cask stuff come out down Stonehouse. Regular changes. We've seen Cambrian Gold that come back, because that was a very popular beer many moons ago. Has been dropped in ABV a touch, which annoys the shit out of me. But we've seen that come back. Station is always going to be there, I think. And they've got a few core beers that they've had. So Into the Wild has been a core beer for them, which is like a session IPA. We've got Shark Beach, which is lager, which is part of their core range. But they've been changing the cask quite a lot. I've had some really nice cask beers from them. I think there's only been a couple of beers that I've actually had from them this year, and they have released an awful lot of beers that haven't been to my taste. The one, I'm trying to think what it was called now. Oh, it was a pale ale they released. Can't think off the top of my hand, but very disappointing. I thought that was really dull, really boring, if I'm honest. But some of them have been fantastic. Fire and Light was a winter ale that they released, 4.4%. Fantastic, really nice flavours in it. And they've also released an awful lot of hazy beers. We've also had a stout from them, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Sent that out to a few people. We've had Road Trip, I believe it is. Samsara, I think, was last year, but we've had Road Trip, we've had High Numbers. What else have we had? Oh, we've had Plus Minus, we've had Days to Come. We've had one of their cask beers actually come out in bottle, which was, I can't even think of that. Oh dear, I can't think of that one. But that was actually the first sort of cask beer they've released, or new one, in a bottle for a long time. But we've had some fantastic beers. Now for me, like I say, I don't get to try everyone else's beers, not like I do Stonehouse, but 98% of the time their beers are absolutely cracking. And also 98% of the time, 99% of the time, when their beers are bottled, there are no issues. I've never had any issues with their beers for a long, long time. That said, there has been a couple lately, in my opinion. I did mention one to him. And there's also another one that was brought up to me, or mentioned to me from Liam, who was at Deep in Brews Reviews. And then when I done a live the other day, you could see it was well and truly oxidized. Now the beer didn't smell, it didn't taste off, but it just lacked something. So I think they have got a couple of issues on the bottling side of things, maybe. So I will be mentioning that again to him next time I see him. Say maybe there's a bit of an issue here because there's never been one before. So hopefully they'll look into that. But yeah, for me, Stonehouse Brewery, to release so many beers in a year and be consistently good, for me, they're my brewery of the year. Yes, they're local. So it's a little bit unfair to any other breweries, but they're a cracking brewery. So if you are anywhere near Oswestry, Shropshire, pop in and go and have some. So I'm going to have a quick slurp. It's a long video, I know. This is coming up for review at some point as well, like I said. Via Roma. It wets the whistle. That is about it. So, my top 5 beers of the year. There's been a few that have just missed out. There's been some cracking beers that I've had. A Bourbon County, a sour double IPA that just missed out. I've had double IPAs from Track Brewing. I've had a really, I wouldn't have put it in, it was nowhere near being beer of the year, but I had a West Coast IPA from Lakes Brew Co, which was just a fantastic beer. I've had some really good beers. I've had a triple IPA from Northern Monk and Polly's, double IPA from Beak. Some really good beers. I think the nearest one that I'm going to mention now, these beers are in order. But if there was going to be one for me that literally just missed out, it was an American one from Hudson Valley Brewery. And it was a can of their Isosceles, and it's a sour double IPA. That one just missed out. I don't even know why I've knocked it out. I just think I've had such good beers, but that one was outstanding, especially for the style. Now, I know a sour IPA isn't necessarily anyone's taste, let alone a sour double IPA, but that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. And what I liked about their beers, I think they sort of specialise in sours. You get that sourness. That's what you got to get. It's not one of these modern sours. It was proper sour. So they have just missed out in the top 5, but I'm going to do them in order now. So the top 5 beers I've had this year. Number 5 for me is Augustina Oktoberfest. That is one hell of an Oktoberfest beer. Drinkable as hell, really tasty, and for me, I think maybe because it's such a simple style, a lager or an Oktoberfest beer, I think that is why I've put that in at number 5. So that's me number 5 there. Next one is part of a trilogy of beers. I only managed to get 2 of them, and it's a collaboration. And I think it was from, well, I know it was from Rivington, and I think it was Chain House Brew Co. And this was their Evil Dead double IPA. Absolutely fantastic beer. For me, anything generally from Rivington is going to be an amazing beer, and that didn't disappoint. A little bit pricey. I think I paid £7 for it, which is quite cheap really, to be honest, for a double IPA, but it really hit the bloody mark. It was fantastic. Now the next 2 beers are from American breweries, or actually from one American brewery, and it's from Other Half Brewing, and a can of their Green City, which was a double dry hopped IPA. I think the Evil Dead Dipper, by the way, Augustina Oktoberfest, I think was 6%. Evil Dead Dipper, I think, was 8%. The Green City double dry hopped IPA was 7%. And that's from Other Half Brewing Co. And I think they're out in New York. That was an absolutely amazing standard IPA. I don't think it'll be a long time, I think, before I have a beer, a standard IPA that blows my mind like that did. That was, for me, that was what IPAs used to be like when I first started. Big, thick, heavy, chewy. It was tasty. It was just an amazing beer. So number 2 is another beer from Other Half Brewing. And I know this, now I got the American ones half price, I think, or about 40% off. So I got them quite cheap. I think I paid about £5 for the Green City. And this next one from Other Half Brewing, I think I paid £6 for. I think it should have been £11. And it's their Broccoli Imperial IPA, they call it. I've put it down as a dipper. It was coming in at 7.9%, and oh my God. I mean, if anything could give you an orgasm, drink-wise, that was it. I mean, that for me was absolutely fantastic, and that was exactly how I like my double IPAs. Full of juiciness, a great body, beautiful flavour, and drinkable as hell. And I really wish I'd picked about 7 of them up. If I'd known they were going to be that good, I would have just filled the online trolley up and bought loads of them. So that's my number 2. And my final beer, and the number 1 beer I've had personally, in my view, of 2024, is another collaboration, and a lot of you will know, and it's from Rivington and Emperor's Brewery, and it's their Army of Darkness chocolate orange imperial stout, coming in at 10% ABV. It was an expensive beer, $9.95, but my word, it was just, everything about that beer was absolutely banging. The aroma, the taste, the body, the drinkability. And you may say, £10 for a beer. That was worth every single penny I paid for it. The flavours weren't overpowering, nothing took over, everything was well balanced. It tasted like a Terry's chocolate orange, it seriously did. But you weren't bombarded by them notes. The body of the beer was unreal. I mean, it was like engine oil. It was weighty. And the ABV, I think I said on the video, you'd struggle to think that was 5-6%. You really would. It drunk like, well, it drunk like a 5-6% beer. It was absolutely outstanding. And I know for a fact, if they're doing anything next year for Halloween and they're doing collaborations, I'm going to be on it like a shot, because I thought that beer was absolutely outstanding. So yeah, there you go. I've been talking for 25 minutes. That's pretty much all my beers, breweries, perfect draft kegs, supermarket beers. That's everything of 2024 for me. So a massive thank you to everyone that has watched me throughout the year, everyone who has subscribed. I hope you're going to keep watching me. Hope the channel's going to grow. What's going to happen in 2025? I don't know. It's probably going to be more of the same. I'll probably do a few spicy challenges. I know I've got a one chip challenge that will be coming up at some point. I've got a dried Carolina Reaper to try and eat as well. I do plan on doing some more lives, whether they be with others or just on my own. There'll definitely be more on my own as well, but I'll probably do a few with others. But other than that, it's going to be beer reviews. I may cut down on buying some of the shit kegs on the Perfect Draft just to try and save some money. But other than that, not a lot is going to change. Baz is still going to be here, probably annoying the tits off you. So yeah, I'm going to leave you all in peace. Hope you have a great New Year's Eve. Don't drink too much and end up in a silly state and feel terrible the following day. And that's it. See you in 2025. Cheers.